All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my kitchen, and thank you, Andy Richardson, for joining us today. Community, we are going to be talking all things fermented veggies, and I can't even tell you how excited I am to talk about this. We're going to get in there. We're going to get into the details. We're going to get in the nitty gritty. But if you're cooking with us, be prepared. Check out michellefox.com/food if you want some of the ingredients to pull out and cook with us. But if you want to sit back and enjoy, please feel free to ask lots of questions because we will have time today. So, Andy, one of my favorite Denver realtors, how are you?
Oh, great. Great to be here. I've been looking forward to
Yay!
this.
Yay! I'm
Yeah, we've
so
been talking about this for a
glad.
couple weeks. I've been looking forward to it. Yeah.
I am
Yeah. Thanks
so
for having me
glad.
on. Budding
My
budding Food
pleasure.
Network star. I'm plugging
I
you.
love it. Jazz
Yeah,
hands. Thank you. Claim it.
right.
We got to name it to claim it.
That's right. That's right.
I will take it. And friends, just kind of a fun fill in. And Andy, tell me if I'm missing any details, but I think our history is kind of fun. First, and I think you said you don't remember me, but I remember you helping my mom and I sell a property. It was right around the time my father passed. So that was, I guess, 5, 6 years now, because you were filling in for my realtor that day. And I just remember this guy's really nice and he's kind of funny. And I think we fast forwarded 2 years later and you were my yoga teacher at Core Power Yoga. I'm like, I know him. How do I know this guy? And I
It's
think we
filling
figured it out
in.
that way.
It was a closing on a building, office building on DTC Boulevard. Yeah.
Oh, good memory. There
I
you go.
think so.
It
Yeah. We
was.
talked for a few minutes out
It
in the
was.
parking lot. Yeah. Okay. Now it's all filling in.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you were
Yay.
regular
And
at
then,
my yoga classes, which is really cool.
yeah, and then yoga. And then what brought us here today is Andy participated in my Dry February challenge this past February. And he was our star student
No.
doing very low sugar, low to none. And then he also did this awesome fermented cabbage video. So I thought, as I'm teaching the benefits and the power of kimchi, why not bring along a friend?
I
So
know.
again, Andy,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here. I
Oh,
appreciate
thank
having
you.
you.
Awesome to be.
Yes. So before I jump all the way in, you see, I just want to play with my cabbage. I want to get in there. It sounds like Andy, you also are cooking some cabbage,
Yes,
fermented
I
cabbage,
am.
right? Okay.
Right.
So then I will jump in teaching the kimchi, and then go ahead, start on your process, and I'm sure we'll be crossing paths as we cook. And feel free to jump in where you are and where you
Yeah,
can.
sure.
All right.
My process is all about the preparation. And that's kind of the way I cook is get all the prep done early so that when it's time to cook, you've got bowls of prep food ready to go and you can just dump. It takes a lot of. I'm one of those sort of Swedish chefs. Things are flying, and
Yep.
and it's really good to have everything chopped and ready to go, so I can just throw it in the pan as I go. And that's
Love it.
exactly how this works. So, do you want me to talk about the fermentation process, or
Actually, I would love to start talking about the kimchi first, and then
oh
as
yeah,
we
okay.
see like
Oh yeah.
some crossover, I would love for you to jump in.
Yeah, okay.
Including, I'm going to be massaging the kimchi. There's a part where I'll be massaging for like a good 10 minutes, and we'll have plenty of time for conversation
All
during that.
right.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
So, again, if you've gone to michellefox.com/events, you'll see that I posted the ingredients. I said a one head cabbage, whether that's Napa, which is what I have here, this beautiful cabbage. I know not all of us are familiar with all the different types of cabbage, but they all have various nutrients, but very similar nutrients family. But maybe you have red cabbage, maybe you have green cabbage. You also want to grab, looking at my recipe here, 6 green onions, 2 carrots, 1 daikon radish, which I did say is optional just because it's really hard to find sometimes. I went to 2 different grocery stores, and then my husband Steve was like, why don't you check out the Asian market? And I'm like, duh. So I'm so excited. I found the Asian market and I found the daikon. This is what a daikon radish looks like. And don't be surprised if yours comes out a little limp like mine, because that's just the way we roll with daikon. but I'll be talking about the nutrient profile of that momentarily. You also want, let's see, 10 red radish. Got the radish here. 5 garlic cloves, a ½ inch of ginger, some sea salt, and then anything that brings the heat, whether that's the red pepper flakes or the chili powder, or perhaps you have the Korean style chili powder, which actually is not as spicy as the regular chili powder, but it does give you a little bit more of that umami flavor. So let's just jump in with the cabbage. So again, I've got Napa cabbage, and Andy, I think you said you have red cabbage? Beautiful, look at those chops. Cabbage. Did you chop that manually or with a food processor?
That's manually. Yeah, nicely, and that's the red cabbage. It's the most beautiful vegetable. Yeah.
I absolutely love red cabbage. So whether you have, those of you who are cooking with us, whether you have the red cabbage or the green cabbage or the Napa cabbage, if you're making the kimchi with me, you do want to take off at least one large leaf, because we're going to use that to top off our kimchi at the end. And also for my students that love to jump ahead and know what they're getting into, just know that everything we make today, it will be fermenting from anywhere from 3 to 10 days. So we will not be eating it tonight. Although you could, I mean, there's nothing wrong with eating it now, but you won't get some of those gut healing benefits without the fermentation first. You might get a lot of toot toots, which Andy and I were kind of talking about before the show. So we want the cabbage fermented so you can avoid the toot toots. So I'm gonna put my cabbage leaf to the side. Andy was awesome and prepped ahead, so don't mind the noise. I will be chopping it up here, and I'm doing like, I'm not great with measurement. I don't know, would you say like ½ an inch wide chops? About like this style is the way I'm gonna cut up all my cabbage. And I'm just gonna put it in a big bowl, and I do mean big because we're putting all the ingredients in there, and plus we need space for our hands, because I already kind of hinted, well, gave away, that we will be massaging. So you want room for your hands to be in there. And so while I'm chopping, I'm gonna ask my hot producer over here, is there anybody in the room? Tell me if you're in the room. I'd love to hear from you. If anybody's joined us so far.
I don't see any yet on my end.
All right. Well, we will just keep chopping and see if anybody shows up with any questions about fermented veggies. And actually, I guess I have a question for you while I'm chopping, Andy. I know you had mentioned that you're creating, or that you created a brine. Is that something that needed to ferment on its own, or did you just make that earlier today?
No, I actually mixed it just before you and I got on the phone. I use sea salt, and I like Sprouts. I've tried Trader Joe's. I get best results with Sprouts. And for
Hey, tell me the difference before you jump ahead. So you're saying the sea salt's different from the different stores? Like,
I don't know.
Are you saying?
I don't know. We know there are factors in fermenting, like the heat of the day, the heat of the room, things like that. So it may have been other factors, but I don't want to spend a lot of time messing recipes up with the wrong salt. If I know one's working, I'm just going to stick with it. So I have no idea, Michelle.
You just know you like it better from Trader Joe's.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Nice, good to know.
I had a batch of Trader Joe's not ferment, and so from then on it was the salt, and it probably isn't. So yeah, salt, and I find that 1.5 tablespoons of sea salt to 1 quart of water, and I've got about 2/3 of a quart here, so I did 1 tablespoon.
Okay.
With that. So whereas I do a brine, you're going to be mixing the salt in, right? And that's correct. Your brine, is your cabbage is going to create the brine from the juices as it breaks down. Yes?
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better. Yes. You get an A for articulating my process on this side of the screen. So yes, that's exactly what we're going to be doing, creating a brine with the juice of the cabbage itself and some of these other veggies that we've got going in here. So you can see we started with that big head of cabbage and now it has filled this big bowl. I am just going to dry off my hands. And so next we have 6 green onions. And one hip tip I shared on socials earlier that it's great to store your veggies in glass whenever possible. Get them out of the rubber bands, get them out of the plastic, because you just never know what kind of chemicals might be seeping into your veggies. So with green onions, I've noticed, it's actually something new I've been trying with my green onions. I've been doing it forever with my carrots and celery, but I just put water, a little bit of water at the bottom, and I put it in a glass jar, and they've been lasting like, hate to say 2 weeks. And the only reason I hate to say it is because I prefer to be eating them underneath, but it's been great. So for this recipe, I'm just going to take 6 of them and chop them up to put them in our kimchi. So, and then Andy, over on your side with your brine, are you going to be stirring? Are you going to be massaging? What is your process to make your, what would you call it? I was going to say just cabbage, but sauerkraut, right? Is it essentially sauerkraut that you're making?
Yeah, it's a live sauerkraut with it's a red sauerkraut.
Okay.
So all of the fermentation that I've done, really, in terms of my preference of what to ferment, comes down to having crispy vegetables at the end. And I tried the massage method with some green cabbage, and green cabbage is less crispy than red to begin with. And after about, it was good for about 3 days, and then it started to get mushy. And kind of like that apple you were really excited about, but then it's mushy and it just doesn't have that same. Whereas red cabbage stays crispy for a while. And so I'm trying not to massage it down. I'm just letting the brine, the little microbes get to the outside so that there's plenty of crunch left over when you eat it. So for that very reason, I don't ferment peppers anymore, except for hot peppers that I intend to put in a blender, because they go soft and they're not appealing.
See, and I'm complete opposite. No, I love that. And like, there's no right or wrong. It just comes down to preference, right? Because mine actually will be soft, and I prefer the soft texture. And with that said, I prefer spicy, and not everybody loves the spicy. I know in the beginning when I even had kimchi for the first time, it was about maybe 15 years ago, I was really intimidated by it because the kimchi I had at the Korean restaurant, it just looked really hot and it was, exotic to me at the time. But then once I tasted it, I'm like, oh, this is delicious.
Yeah, right.
And it's like my gut feels so much better when I'm eating it.
So, right.
Yeah, so here are my steps, and then I have a feeling we'll come together at the same time. But I just did the cabbage, I just did the green onion, and now we're going to do 2 carrots. So if you have organic carrots, all you need to do is chop off the ends, and we're going to shred them. I have a food processor. If you don't have one, no worries, just grate it down. If you do not have organic carrots, I would recommend peeling off the skin first, just because, again, you never know what chemicals might be in them. So with the carrots, we've got the beta carotene, which is awesome for our eyes. With the kimchi, I probably should have started early. I think I was just afraid that I was going to say it way too many times, but you can't say too many times. Fermented veggies are so powerful for our guts, and that's why we're making it tonight, because not only can it heal our guts, but it can alleviate some allergies. It feeds our brain. It helps to balance moods. It helps to balance hormones. And anytime you can get fermented foods in your body, the better. So this is just one step to help get us there. So with that pause, and I will definitely repeat that again, the daikon radish, I'm also going to shred that, so I'll talk about it before I make a whole lot of noise. But the daikon radish is excellent to tonify our livers. So it's a great detox, and it actually is it has a little spice to it. It's relatively mellow, it's white, but it still packs a little punch. And again, if it's organic, feel free to leave the skin on like this is, but if not, we probably want to grate away some of that skin. And again, I found this daikon radish at the Asian food store down the street. Thank the Lord, because shopping at King Soopers and Sprouts didn't have much luck this weekend. I don't know. You're actually in the city, so you probably have more access to more unique foods, don't you, Andy?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I'm just by DU, but no, I'm at Sprouts and King Soopers too. So
okay, well there you go.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, and then let's see. We've also got our red radish. So 10 red radish. Some of them are big, some of them are small. So, you know, use your best judgment. But the radish definitely packs that little punch, my technical term. But these are really high in vitamin C and also fiber. And they ferment really nicely. But I like to grate them so that it's easier to eat it, because I typically eat my kimchi as a condiment. I know one of our friends earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday, all my time kind of mushes together with this pandemic we're coming out of. But she asked, like, what do you eat it with? And I would love your answer, Andy, but I told her I typically eat it when I eat meat, because I find that when I eat the fermented veggies alongside my protein, it just helps to break it down a little bit easier, and I feel better in my body. That's often when I eat it. I mean, you could eat it on its own, but what about you? Do you have any fun recipes or anything you do with your?
Really on salads, soups, anything where you want to do a little extra punch. On top, like after we serve it, we'll put a little nutritional yeast on top of some soup, and then some fermented cabbage.
That sounds
if
really
I'm making
good.
a salad dressing, because it comes out a bit salty, right? So you can throw some in with the blender when you're making a salad dressing, and you get that probiotic without the chunks. So that works too.
I love
sandwiches,
that idea.
if you want a little crunch on sandwiches, really anything. Sometimes, we'll be go in there with a fork and just take a mouthful and put the jar back, just
I love it. And your body's saying, thank you,
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, and
especially
and
your
we
gut.
notice. Yeah, you notice. It's subtle, but it's there. There's a little more energy. There's a little more, the digestion feels a little, I want to be careful with my words talking about digestion. It's just smoother, and
absolutely. Hey, I'm a nutritionist.
I can't describe
we can
it.
talk about digestion here.
Right.
Absolutely. Fermented foods make the body good. Do the body good.
Yes.
All right. So before I grate this, I just wanted to show, I'm using, depending on your food processor, I'm using the larger grate. Mine comes with a smaller grate and a larger one. So I don't want the grates totally small, but small enough that we can get in there and again, massage. So actually this is gonna make a lot of noise. So I'm actually gonna mute myself. I don't know if you want to start prepping your veggies and or if you want to talk about it. This is gonna be really loud.
Okay.
All right,
cool.
I'll be back momentarily.
Awesome. So then I'll just sort of do my piece here. On my end, what we're doing is we're putting veggies in a jar and we're putting brine on top of it. And the whole idea is that we want everything submerged, because this fermentation process happens in an anaerobic environment. So you can get onto Amazon and you can get little stones and things that'll fit in the tip of your jar and weigh things down. But I use these little, these little sauce cups, kind of like if you go to Modern Market and you get sauce. You can buy these at Supers or at Walmart, or buy them clean, because if there's a little dirt under the rim and it gets into your thing, it can mess up your fermentation. But this fits right into the lid of the jar, and you can see it's going to push down all the veggie matter, and so it stays submerged. And then of course that stays on by use of the lid, and I'll show you all that later. I use just regular organic red cabbage, and I chopped so that we didn't have two people cooking at once. And really it's all about for cabbage, for fermented cabbage, it's all about just all the prep. So I have a big pile of cabbage on my cutting board. I have a jar with a specialty canning funnel, which works really well just to help cram all the stuff in. And so I'm just taking this and I'm just putting cabbage in, and you're gonna pack it a little tight. And for that reason, I have a muddler that I use. And once it goes down in there, you just, because it shrinks a little bit, oddly enough, you can fill this to the top and have to cram it down to get the lid on, and tomorrow it's gonna be loose. So you can really fill this up and fill it up, pack it up, fill it up, pack it up. If there's any left on your cutting board, make a salad. Because it's good fresh cabbage. Jump in
there real quick.
There you are. Sure,
fill it up, pack it up. That sounds like a rap song, the beginning of a rap song. Just had to jump in for a little music.
All right.
Little music break.
We need a background beat.
Pack it up. Sorry, carry on. I couldn't resist.
Cut to the Snoop Dogg Thug Life picture, right?
There you go. You never know. Nice. Maybe Snoop Dogg is eating some kimchi right now. We don't know.
We keep this up, he'll be watching us.
There you go. I like
how to make it. All right, here's the deal. Filled and packed to the rim. You can see it coming out the top. I don't have the fancy top camera that Michelle has. So I've got water. This is so fast, you guys. I got water. I've got my jar. You can watch. I'm just gonna fill it up. And air is gonna get in all these pockets. So I'm gonna spend a little bit of time once this is filled, pushing it around, poking at it, and getting all that air out. So I'll go in there with my muddler a little bit, pack it down. I've got a lid here, put the lid on, and I can roll it around a little bit, start to get the air to come up. You can see that bubbles are already starting to come out of there. That's not fermentation bubbles, those are just the trap bubbles. And I spend a few minutes just working it out. And shake it a little bit. And this isn't carbonated. Fermentation isn't carbonated, although it does create gases. And if you seal the lid, then in a couple of days, you'll get some pressure. And sometimes it relieves itself in an unpleasant way. I've read stories about fermenting jars exploding around the kitchen. So, all right,
yeah,
I'm
we
full.
don't want to scare people, Andy, but I am glad you said that warning, because yes, we want to do a light lid. We don't want it too tight.
Yes, and that's another reason why I love these lids. This is just an accidental find, like we can push this stuff down. Because I think down the road, what you're going to do is you're going to use a piece of the leaf, right, Michelle? And you're going to use it on top. Yeah.
You got it.
I'm not coordinated enough to make that work. So there you go. There's the little condiment thing. And when I put the ring on, it's going to push. I'm going to get a little leakage down the side. That's no big deal. And now it's not pushing it down all the way. Air and water can get up. And that's it, you guys. That's it. I'm done. Fermented veggies. So these will go in a drip catch because they are going to bubble, and and when they bubble, that's going to push some of the water out. So you're going to have to keep a little bit more fermentation juice, your brine. Go in there, poke it around, get the air to come out, and then fill back to the top and put your lid back on and put it in your catch tray. That's how simple it is. So fermented veggies can happen that quickly. You guys have done cauliflower. I like to cut cauliflower up into pieces about $1/2 or $1/4 size. Garlic ferments really well, you guys. Slices the garlic in with whatever you're doing. And mind you, it's going to be somewhere between a cooked garlic and that really zippy tang that raw garlic offers. But it's really good in fermented foods. Adds a nice flavor. So
love that. And Andy, how did you originally get hip to fermented foods? Just out of curiosity.
My friends started asking, hey, can we do some fermented foods? And we just started playing. And what bolsters it, once you start eating fermented foods and you understand how good you feel when you're consistently eating them, you want to have them around.
Ding, ding.
And okay, this is a
Yes,
quart jar, okay?
yes.
You will spend $8 or $9 for a pint, one half of this, a pint-sized jar at King Soopers of fermented food. So my cabbage cost $3 and I used about a third of it.
See, and that's what
So
I love. That is one of my values is from scratch cooking. It's like if you can make it yourself, please do. 'Cause you are going to get the
yeah,
nutrients and you're going to get the food in your body that you want. There's no question about what you're ingesting because you have no idea when it's out of your hands. So I
exactly.
love that you showed that so simply, so easy. And let me ask with your um, fermentation process, especially with your cabbage here, like how long will you let it sit? And or do you check on it during the process?
Yeah, I sneak forkfuls over, in a couple of days it'll really start to bubble, and that's when it's going crazy. And the little you're growing bugs. Let's just be honest. You're growing bacteria, right? little
Absolutely.
gut
Yep.
bacteria, and the bugs need food. And so at some point, they will have eaten a lot of the sugar available to them, and they'll start to die off. And you'll notice that with the dying off of the bubbles. And usually about that time is when I cap it and put it in the fridge. And food continues to ferment in the fridge, probably at about a 10% rate of what it would on the counter.
You are correct.
Um, so
And so I think I missed it. Our UPS guy just walked in. So sorry, I got a little distracted. But how long are you going to let this one ferment?
oh yeah, I don't know that I answered that. In
Okay.
about 2 days, it'll start to be worth sort of keeping an eye on. It'll give off that little funky smell,
Uh-huh.
and probably about 5 days because
Okay.
it's warm.
Yeah.
We tend to leave the door open to the outside, so it stays about 72 in here, and that's kind of the high range of fermentation temperatures. 60, high 60s, low 70s is kind of the sweet spot.
I would
So,
agree. You got it. We keep ours in the laundry room, which is not too far off the kitchen.
nice.
And I'm glad you mentioned the smell because, yes, I want my friends to know as they're making this, if this is your first time, I do not want you to get to, day two, you smell something and you throw it out. Please do not throw it out because that means the good stuff is happening. That is a
Yeah,
fermentation. So, yes, it will be a unique smell, but tell yourself probably the stinkier it gets, the better it is for your body. So,
yeah.
it's worth
You'll
it.
you'll know if
Worth
it's
it.
bad. We had one batch go bad, and you'll know. And more than
Yeah.
likely, if it goes bad, it'll show a little bit of mold on the top. And I did do some reading on that. And if
Yeah.
if it goes a little bit bad, you can typically pick out the spots that are the pieces of food that are maybe molding or showing some signs of discoloration or whatever. Pull those out, resubmerge everything else, and see if it doesn't just fix itself in the next day or so, because often it will.
There you
Um,
go.
but if
And
it's
with
just covered
that,
in mold, start over.
I want to add on because I completely agree. We don't want any mold in the body. I do not want to make anybody sick. And if you do
No,
it, follow directions, you're not going to get sick. But with that, just to tack on to what you're saying, Andy, is just a reminder to people only use one spoon or fork at a time because these are live cultures that are occurring in your jar. And so even just going like this, the cultures of your saliva, if you put it back in the jar, that's going to change the pH level. So just be really careful once you do start eating your fermented foods. So
yeah.
I'll let you carry on in a moment, but I just wanted to show, hopefully you saw with my hand action down here, I just chopped up ginger, about 1 inch piece ginger. And I like mine a little thick, but feel free to go at your texture that you prefer. And then I also chopped up the 5 cloves of garlic, 5 cloves of garlic, and I'm putting those in. And then I'm going to use a generous sprinkling of sea salt because as Andy alluded to earlier, we are going to be making the brine from the juices of these gorgeous veggies. And we do like spice in our house. So I'm going to add the chili, pepper, flakes. That was probably a tablespoon right there for this big old bowl. And then I'm going to add the chili powder just for a little bit more flavor, but that's kind of optional. Some people usually do one or the other. I will tell you, I learned this recipe in school at the Academy of Culinary Nutrition. And so
Cool.
this is a nod to my teacher's recipe. So I definitely want to give credit where credit is due. Let me move the board here to make sure you can see. And so
you
now,
emphasized the big bowl, Michelle, and look, you're almost overfilling it.
woo!
That's great.
Yes, I can like get my upper arm workout with this bowl. Because yes, thank you for noticing my bowl. So yes, now we are going for it. So you saw the before, and this is going to take a minimum of 5 minutes to massage. And I will tell you that the Napa cabbage, the cell walls are a little softer than the walls of the red cabbage, which is probably the hardest, and the green cabbage. So you won't need to massage the Napa cabbage as long, but either way, we're gonna get a good arm workout in there. So just get in there. Some people say you can get your aggression out, but I'm thinking this is a great meditation. Like I want good vibes in my food. So often when I'm making this alone, I'm doing my prayers, I'm doing my meditation, kind of my downtime, my alone time. It's kind of sad that I have to have alone time while I'm cooking, right? That has to be my getaway. But it really does just ground me. I know for those of us who are gardeners, I think having our hand in the soil is very similar. It's just having our hands in live, potent, organic food. These gorgeous plants.
I can't think of a better time to bless your food than when you're making it. If you're a food blesser, when you're making, because you're in meditation and you're doing that anyway, and just giving good vibes to the food. And so food quality, you guys, you know, it's farmers market season, and you know,
farmers market dance for that one.
So that's right. So much of our veggies coming from the grocery stores are coming from over-farmed, overworked soils. We're not getting the same nutrients in our food that we would if we grew our food and we grew it in organic, you know, composted beds, etc. So the next best thing is to go to the farmers that are taking care of their crops, and that's the farmers market. So if you really want highly nutritious food and you want your fermentation to come out so perfect, go find the farmers market and fill up that $10 bag.
Absolutely. And I always say that organic is best when you can, and second best would be local. Actually, sorry, I said that backwards. I say local. Buying food locally is number one. Preferably it's local and organic, but if you have to choose one or the other, our bodies, there really is an energetic, what would you call it? An energetic sphere happening when you buy the food that grows near you. So here in Colorado, you know, I know the peaches taste magical compared to maybe peaches that maybe were blown in from Florida or wherever they're grown in. I don't know. But I just know that local food has more healing properties for our bodies.
Some of that too is that in order to ship it, to have time for it to ship, you have to pick it when it's very green. So tomatoes are picked green, and then sometimes they're gassed. Avocados are gassed. So the more local you can go, the closer to ripe that they're picking, because their shipments aren't traveling across the country or the world. So you're getting bright red cherry tomatoes that were picked this morning, you know, as opposed to last week in Southern California. Food's a big deal,
right?
And your sourcing of food. I mean, really, this work almost needs to have a garden connected to it. You know what I mean? I'm not challenging you or anything.
I love it. No, I think you're volunteering to come over here and grow a garden in our yard. You are hired, sold, done. Yes, I'm in. Oh, you know what? I just got a chunky part. That is definitely not going to soften up. So that just got put in the refuse bowl. I'm looking over here at my notes. So fermented foods. I'm going to put you on the spot, Andy. Can you name? I wrote down. Let's see, about 7 fermented foods. Can you name 3 that people are probably more familiar with than kimchi here in our American culture?
Well, y'all know yogurt and its liquid form kefir.
Good
That's
job.
one. What else? Tempeh is fermented, is it not?
It is.
Miso is often fermented. Soy sauces the good soy sauces are made in a fermentation basis. Kimchi, what else? Fermented.
And I'll just do an asterisk when you said soy sauce. I want to promote the tamari just because it's gluten-free, but yes, both of those are fermented.
Sure.
Yeah, you're on a roll. I like it.
What else is fermented?
For bonus points.
Alcohol.
Okay, now you just lost about 3 points right there.
Oh, shoot.
It was going so good, Andy. Oh, that is funny, but you're exactly right. You're exactly right. The beer goes through the fermented process. Some wines. Maybe all wines.
I'm missing a few, definitely.
No, you're doing awesome.
What are the other ones you've got in your notes?
So in my notes, I just have, well, of course, what we're making here, the kimchi and the sauerkraut, which is what you beautifully made on that side. You mentioned the tamari, the miso. Apple cider vinegar is one of my absolute favorites.
Yes.
A lot of times, not a lot of times, actually all the time, the good stuff, the organic apple cider vinegar, you'll see the mother at the bottom, and you always want to shake that up so that you get that good brain healing nutrient in when you're pouring that liquid. So yeah, apple cider vinegar, you said the kefir. Yogurt, I think, is the most popular American fermented, besides the alcoholic beverages. And then the kombucha, which I say it that way because I don't know. I have feelings about kombucha. My feelings are that, I guess the easiest way to put it is, it's great for the bodies that can tolerate it. My body cannot. And I would say if you taste any sweetness, because yes, it's fermenting off of sugar, but the really good kombucha really doesn't have much sweetness to it, which means it's been fermented all the way. Uh-oh, my earpiece is coming out and I have dirty fingers. Babe, will you come help me? I'm gonna let this fall right there.
Help! Yeah, I did some fermentation of, oh, she can't hear me, we're waiting on the.
Okay, see, I get talking about kombucha, and maybe the kombucha gods are like, do not talk about me. We are good. But can you hear me okay, Andy, before I go back to it?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. And I was going to say that I did some fermentation with some Mexican sugar and like fruit. And I definitely got fermentation, but I also had a sweet drink and realized after drinking a lot of it that I was really drinking a lot of sugar.
Oh,
and
so didn't
yeah, I thought I was doing myself some real good. But because they were fizzing and they were tasty and they had that little bit of funk. But if it's sweet at all, you're tasting sugar. Yep. And yeah, so I'm with you on the kombucha.
More fermentation. All right, so just to again look at my notes to make sure I covered everything. We want to have fermented veggies in our diet to heal our guts, because our guts, especially actually in Chinese medicine, it's believed that our guts are actually the brain that's running our systems, our nervous system, our blood system, our thinking system. So, wait, sorry, okay. My producer had some questions. I guess it can wait later. Okay. So we want to do whatever we can to support our guts. So you might have heard the term microbiome. So we want to support the microbiome, and the fermented food actually creates probiotics. It's not a probiotic itself, But when it gets in our body, it helps create probiotics, which actually pro meaning positive, biotic meaning life. It's helping the life force in our bodies. So that is why we want to get the fermented veggies in. I find that it helps me think more clearly when I'm good with my fermented veggies. And Andy, with you, do you notice like when you start eating them that you actually start craving them? Like if I start eating them even just 2 days in a row, it's like the third day I'm like, where is my kimchi? Or where's my sauerkraut?
Totally. It's like any routine. Like you start working out, and at first it's like no bueno, but then you come home and you realize I really want to eat good foods, and then you're eating good foods and you have more energy. Hey, I want to work out more, and it's this cycle. And it's the same thing with fermented veggies. I get in this cycle where I just want more and more, and we can go through a jar in 3 days if we're not careful, because it's just it's on everything.
Oh, see, so I can only do maybe like a quarter of a cup a day, and I typically do it as like a condiment, and again, usually on the side of a protein. But my daughter Angel, who's graduating junior high this year, or this week, tomorrow, she mentioned to me, she's like, well, if you're making kimchi, can we make that sushi that we like to make? And I'm like, oh, she remembered and she liked it. So yes, you can definitely get creative with
Definitely.
This gorgeous food.
Maybe so I want to come back and cover again the whole importance of cleanliness, because you know there's a whole process to the prep. I didn't just cut cabbage. I rinsed my jars. I use filtered water, and I rinsed my jars clean them first, then rinse them with filtered water to get any of the tap water junk out of them. And all my utensils get rinsed with filtered water, just so they all start clean. The cutting board gets a hot wash. If I don't know, everything is clean. I know that you had spotless hands and bowl and everything.
Yep, I definitely have very clean hands.
If you're not, then the chance of bringing in flavors or enzymes or whatever other microflora that might be damaging to your product is really high. So it does, clean everything
dysbiosis,
first.
That very scientific term. We don't want any dysbiosis in our guts.
No.
Right.
Dysbiosis.
AKA food poisoning.
I'm going to throw that one out before everybody's had coffee.
Yeah, so it looks like I'm almost done. So I also wanted to point out, we talked about the carrots being full of beta carotene, which is great for our eyes, full of vitamin C. The cabbage actually is very full of vitamin C as well as fiber. The daikon radish and the red radish, very good to tonify our livers, which is great. And then of course the garlic and the ginger, super great antiviral, anti-inflammatory, helps keep the colds away. In fact, I was doing my research a little while back on a lot of Korean dishes. Thank you, first of all, to our Korean community for bringing this to our lives.
Yeah, right.
Yes, but a lot of their dishes are filled with vitamin C and foods that, what's the word? For lack of a better word, I'm saying push away colds and flu. So because of, that thing we've been going through the past year and a half, this is a super powerful food to keep your, why am I losing my words today? Because now I have some more people at the door, my daughter and my mom. This is such an interesting evening.
Coming over for some kimchi.
Yes, but yes, it keeps away the colds, it keeps away the flus, and it keeps away the allergies. So I cannot wait to dig into this when it's done. So from this camera, you can see, let me see if I can kind of make space. You can see the liquid in there. Are you able to see that? Gorgeous.
Can definitely hear it.
You can hear the liquid?
Yeah, I can see it. Can hear it as you're moving your hands around for sure.
Okay, yeah. So you saw we started dry, very full bowl, and now this bowl is like, I don't know, 2/3, maybe a halfway down. So
Look at that.
We are good. We are ready. And as Andy mentioned, we want very clean jars to start with, which this one is. And since my hands are already in there, I'm just going to start with my hands and put it in. And
That's
yes,
it.
Andy,
That's another.
I did scrub my fingers before I started this process. So thank you for pointing that out. We definitely want very clean hands.
This is another prep beforehand, because if your hands are completely trashed and require a producer's towel, you want to have your jar close by.
Amen.
So,
amen. And to your point, I definitely want to keep space in there as well. And after I fill the second jar, I'll share the liquid piece of it, or part of it.
So as we said before, no, what you've done is you've taken a bunch of fresh veggies, and by massaging them, you're breaking cell walls, and the water coming from the cells is the same water that I poured from a jug. It's the same, that you're sourcing water just in a different place. Both of us are using salt. And so you're giving these little bacteria a whole lot more surface area and sugar to feed on.
Yes, the healthy bacteria. We don't want to scare anybody away.
So I think yes, my process gives up a
healthy bacteria.
Absolutely, and I think my process leans a little bit towards crunch over lots of healthy bacteria. But
yours is still a huge punch of the vitamin C and the gut healing properties.
Yeah, absolutely. But it underscores how individual it is. Some people love that soft, almost sauerkraut on a hot dog, as Steve said in the notes. And we just gravitated towards crispier. So let's see, we've done carrots. Carrots are fabulous. We've done
carrots on their own?
Carrots on their own, just carrot sticks.
Oh, wow.
Stack them vertically in a jar, pour your brine over the top. We've done cucumbers, and if I ever did them again, I would take the seeds out first, and I would use English, because they went mushy fast.
That's gonna be my question, yeah.
Peppers go mushy, but I like to do jalapenos with garlic and then put them in the food processor so I get a spoonable hot sauce. That has no vinegar, which is one of my hot sauce pet peeves, is the vinegar. It's really delicious, and you can add whatever flavors you can do. We do red onions, Michelle, and they're unbelievable.
So those are probably yummy and nice and crunchy, right? Crunchy, crispy. Oh, that sounds delicious.
And the other piece about the crunchy versus crispy is just how thick you slice your slices, right? If you're going shaving, you're going to get a lot of fermentation. It's going to happen fast, but they'll run out of food.
Yeah, and as you're talking, I just want to let our friends know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So you see I have this tamper. It's actually the tamper I use in my Vitamix, but it works perfectly for this size jar. So I'm just tamping out all of the air, as Andy shared earlier. We don't want too much air in there, and I want to make sure that all the veggies are covered in this luscious liquid to help them, I call it cooking, but to help them ferment, because it's essentially going to be cooking in our laundry room for the next. Mine, I'll probably check on it in about 3 days to make sure it's bubbling just right, and I'll smell it to make sure there's no mold or anything crazy happening in there. But I probably won't move mine to the fridge till about day 10, and that's when the fermentation kind of slows way down. So we have these two, and actually, because it smells so good, I'm just going to taste some now. But notice I'm only going to do one dip in. I'm not putting it back in. But I'm just really curious to make sure I got all my flavors right. It's spicy. It is spicy.
I'm so
and it's still crunchy at this point, but it won't be quite as crunchy in about 10 days when I really go to town.
So how do you keep this submerged, Michelle?
Yeah, so my Oh, yeah, let me answer Andy real quick, and then I'd love to answer you. Um, so I submerge Andy by just tampering it down to make sure that
Uh-huh.
everything's covered in the liquid. And then
Okay.
the next question was Steve asked if I could put it all in one jar, and he has a better engineering mind than I do. That probably, you think that would fit? Okay, he's saying yes. Well, let's try it. Because that would actually save some space in the fridge eventually. Where did I put? Oh, there is my funnel. Yeah, let's just try it. So I use that fork and I use that spoon. So let's get a clean spoon. Actually, I think I'll try it with a fork.
And those are quart jars?
Yeah, I love that. So Steve just asked, were there any other suggestions for flavors? And are you saying instead of the garlic or in addition to the garlic? Yeah. Yeah, so as Andy mentioned, you can pretty much ferment almost any veggie. So you could do this with onion. You could add onion. I've had kimchi with onion before, like full onion. I know this recipe we did the green onion, but you could do red onion, yellow onion. That would be good. But yeah, any other spices you want to play with, maybe you could do some garlic powder if you wanted more of that garlic flavor in addition to the garlic cloves we put in. But yeah, I love that question. I totally encourage you to play. Like maybe the first time follow a recipe. If you just Google, kimchi recipe or sauerkraut recipe, you'll see plenty of them out there. So I would say follow that, but then as you get more experienced, go for it. I definitely encourage an empowered chef because the more fun and the more delicious you can make your food, the more chances you're going to get that health profile in your body. Oh my gosh, that is gorgeous. Look at all this liquid. That was some good, look at that. That was some good massaging. I'm happy to brag. Let's see if we can see it from this
That's
view.
work. Well done.
I'll try,
Beautiful.
and there you can kind of see the liquids. So yes, thank you, Andy. Now on yours, did you put kind of like this kind of lid on top too, or did you just seal?
No, just that little inverted cup thing. That's the whole point. Perfect. Is to hold all this stuff down. And
perfect.
It works. I'm really clumsy with those leaves. I tried it, and stuff floats around it up above, and I just I'm not that good.
Lots of liquid. No, it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, and similar to Andy, I'm going to put my lid on lightly, not too tight, just so as it ferments, the air does have space to escape.
And don't forget a drip catch.
What do you mean?
Because when it starts to bubble, it displaces liquid, or at least mine will. And probably displaces as much as a half a cup a day when it's in full on. Yeah. So
I wonder if that's a difference between our brines. Maybe since you added water, I wonder, do you think maybe that's part of the water situation? Because I've never had mine bubble that much. Like it's never, I don't know. Like I've always had like little tiny, like kind of like the bubbles from like seltzer water, you would say. Like I'd see that kind of bubbling, but I never see it like reach the lid, the top.
Interesting. Yeah, they add up, and then you start getting lots of big gaps in there. And when you move it around, you just shake it or whatever, I'll wind up with air down to about here on the jar. And then I just fill it up. And 2 or 3 times a day when it's really going, I'll have to top it off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
and then do you top it off with the brine or just filtered water?
No, I just keep a jar of the brine right next to it. So pull it, I empty to get the drip catch, rinse everything off, pack everything back down, and then fill it back up, and it's that simple. And
I love
take a little, a clean
forkful. Babysit your veggies. I love that. Like we'll call you Daddy Andy.
Yeah, right.
Your babies. I love that. So then,
Well, it's not like I'm in the kitchen all day anyway.
Well, there
getting
you go.
snacks and whatnot. No, it's just Yeah, if you happen to be there, you look, you check. If it needs to be burped, if you would, then yeah, quite simple.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I'm asking my producer if we have any questions. No questions have come in. Okay, no problem. Let me just double check my
Good.
notes to make sure I don't forget anything. So we talked about having a clean jar. We talked about tamping everything down to reduce the bubbles. We talked about keeping the seal pretty light to let the air come out. And in the case if you're using a water brine, sounds like you might want to have something underneath so that you don't have fermented veggie juice all over your
Great.
kitchen. With that said, a lot of people I know store their fermented veggies on top of the fridge where it's a little bit warmer. That's
Oh,
often like in the winter months when the house is
oh
cold.
yeah,
But
sure.
now, especially if you're in Colorado, the temperature should be fine to have it like me in my laundry room. And where are you storing yours, Andy?
Just corner of the
Oh, the
counter.
counter. Oh, well,
So
there you
yeah,
go. Okay. So there's that. If you're making the kimchi recipe that I just shared, check it at the 3-day mark. Smell it. Make sure it's bubbling. You can, and if you think, oh, and you're welcome to taste it again with just one fork. Don't put that fork back in. But if
yeah.
you taste it and you're like, this tastes good, then go ahead, put it in your fridge, and it'll be done fermenting. I like mine way more potent because it's creating more of that healthy bacteria. So I'm definitely going to wait till about day 10 before I stop the fermentation. So just a little hip tip. Um, let's see, we already talked about, again, I can't stress it enough, but when it is time to pull it out and serve it, if you're going to serve it to a family, you want to like scoop some out, put it in a serving bowl, and then eat from
Yes.
that serving bowl. But you never want to double dip with your scientific project here. um, and then lastly, just creative ideas to eat it. Like Andy said, I sometimes eat it alone, like he does as well. But oftentimes I'll use it as like a more like a salad when I'm having a steak or some
Right.
heavier proteins. So those are
Yeah.
all my notes. Do you have anything else you wanted to add before we give a close?
No, I don't think so. Colors, maybe. You have some really nice
Ah,
colors. And that's one of the things that another reason why I like the red. This, by the way, there won't be any white in there when this is all done. It'll look like your dress, Michelle. It'll be about that
oh, I
color
love it.
throughout. Yeah. But
I
it
love it.
it stands out in a salad, or if you put it on a sandwich or whatever, it really stands out and gives that popping bright color. And so that's another thing. I like to ferment stuff that has some color to it.
That's right, because that's more vitamins, especially the vitamin C and the beta carotene to
Right.
support your
Right.
immune system. That's
I saw
brilliant.
something about vitamin K. Do you know about vitamin K being enhanced with the fermentation process?
I'm sure I could research it, and that sounds very familiar, and I'm sure you're
Yeah.
right, but I don't know. I don't know. That's an awesome question. So,
Anyway, lots of health benefits. And I think it's a lot like a lot of things and habits that you do. Um, Once you've done it for a while, you feel it and you notice it, especially when you go off and you just, something's not right. And
yep.
so
This will
we're
bring
rarely
you back to
without.
your center, nice and healing. So then, Andy,
Great.
when you do decide that the fermentation's done, would you be willing to take shots, snapshots, and put them in the comments underneath this video in a couple
Yeah,
days?
yeah. And I think I probably have some from when I did the video before for your February challenge. So I may be able to
Awesome.
get them in there ASAP. Yeah. And I took some of my
Awesome.
process down here, so I'll put them in the comments too.
Oh, I love that. And then I'll do the same.
Yeah.
You have my word on day 10. I'll take some
Day
snapshots of
10.
the finished product. Maybe if I remember, I'll even do a day 3 snapshot just so that our community can watch the process. So
Yeah.
that
That's
is
cool.
it for now. Andy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank
It
you,
was
Michelle.
so nice to have you here in our
It's
kitchens.
awesome.
It feels like you're right here with
Right?
me in my kitchen, and it's
Totally.
lovely to see your beautiful kitchen.
Hanging out on one big island, just having fun with your little wine, some music.
I love it.
Yeah.
And for my
Groovy.
friends, just a heads up, I will be back here every second and fourth Wednesday, 6:30, Facebook Live. Our next one, which will be the second Wednesday of June. Can you believe June's almost here? Oh my gosh. We'll be talking about Ask Me Anything. So kind of like Andy's question about the vitamin K. feel free to bring questions like that to see if you can stump me. Hopefully I'll be on my game, and the more I'm on my game, the healthier our community will be. A few more events just so that I don't forget to share. Go to michellefox.com/events and you'll see all the ways to find ingredients and find ways to register. But Thursday, June 3rd, I'll be back with AARP, which I love that community. And we're going to be making a crispy, gluten-free orange sesame chicken over some cauli rice. So that's Thursday, June 3rd. Wednesday, June 9th, I'm going to be on Paul Simmons' video cast. So I'll post that. We can chat it up, and you never know what kind of surprises could come out of that conversation. Again, June 9th, I'll be here. Ask me anything. Start preparing those questions now. And then Tuesday, June 15th, I'm super excited. I'll be joining a panel with the Academy of Culinary Nutrition. It'll be a full day of all things health, and there will be about 15 of us culinary nutrition experts talking about ways to make our communities healthier. So that is another free event, which I hope you join us for. And that is it. Anything else before I say goodbye, Mr. Richardson?
That's it. You're doing such great things. Right. Thanks for your work.
My pleasure. And thank you for being a part of my community and for chopping it up with me tonight. I'm so grateful.
It's my pleasure.
All right. I'll see you on the other side.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.
Good night.